social media giant X, owned by Elon Musk, has tonight been banned from Brazil. The Supreme Court ordered the immediate and complete suspension of the service after the company refused to take down dozens of X accounts the Justice Ministry said were spreading disinformation. It comes on the back of a decision in France this week to prosecute the Russian owner of Telegram, Pavel Durov. He is facing a litany of charges linked to fraud, drug trafficking and child pornography that was facilitated by the Telegram app. It all marks an extraordinary shift in attitudes towards the social media companies and in particular encrypted messaging. Never before have the biggest companies been held criminally responsible for things circulating on their platforms. Lord Richard Allen is a Liberal Democrat peer, and for 10 years he was Facebook's Director of Policy in Europe. Welcome. Thank you. Two very big stories, this. Are we seeing, do you think, a sea change here, a real watershed moment?
I think what we're seeing is that these companies are now important enough to have massive societal effects. And there's an expectation that they respect the rule of law. And I think, in many cases they're doing that already. The biggest companies are. If you look, Meta, over the last 6 months of 2023, Meta, which owns Instagram and WhatsApp and Facebook, they were asked to provide data by UK law enforcement 10,000 times. So more than 50 times a day, British law enforcement officers are going to them, asking for data. And in the vast majority of those cases, they get it. So there's a whole sort of amount of routine cooperation that goes on all the time.
But Pavel Durov was arrested in France because he didn't have a license to operate with a messaging app. Did you realise that you needed a license in France?
I mean, we're still seeing the details of the claims coming out, but my understanding is they do relate to this failure to cooperate with law enforcement agencies. And my experience working at Facebook was, look, law enforcement agencies come to you, and if they're investigating something live now, where people are being hurt because of activity on the platform, people are coordinating a terrorist attack or whatever it is, they want you to cooperate with them.
So end-to-end encryption is not as it seems. Are you saying that you alert police to things that might be in that encryption service?
I mean, with end-to-end encryption, what that means is, look, if UK law enforcement captures some data from, say, the BT network, they can't read it. But what usually happens is they call one person in the network. They've got that person, they've got that phone, they can see the messages, and they go to the platform and they say, look, here's 10 other people in the network plotting some horrendous activity. Can you give us email addresses, phone numbers, IP addresses so we can go and find them? And they expect you to cooperate. And I think actually the reasonable, ethical thing for any platform is to cooperate where they have a good faith belief that the law enforcement agency is going after people actively harming.
But I think what is unique about this case is that denying culpability for not tackling crime on the platform in the name of free speech is no longer a sufficient defence.
It's not if you're failing to cooperate on a serious criminal activity. Again, my experience is, look, if a government comes to you and says, we want you to take down the opposition politician's speech, you can push back on them. And I think you should, again, ethically.
Do you think that's what's happening in Brazil with some of the accounts that they wanted him to take down?
So Brazil is closer to that, actually. But again, my job as a policy person in the company was to read the room and understand where a government's red lines were and try and get us to not cross them. Or if we're going to cross them, let's do it very deliberately. Let's withdraw from the market in an orderly way.
If you're going to read the room, the polling that was done after the riots here in the UK suggested that 86% of the public blamed social media for fueling the disruption of the riots.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is an expectation that responsible companies behave responsibly. We now have this Online Safety Act, which Ofcom is introducing, and I think there's an expectation that Ofcom will be pretty tough with companies and say, look, you should not tolerate things that provoke illegal activity with violence on the streets. That's not okay. There's speech, there's people expressing views. There we can have an argument. But where the speech is linked to somebody going out, dragging somebody from a car because of the colour of the skin and beating them up, any responsible platform should be willing to cooperate with law enforcement.
That's the interesting thing about responsible platforms, because there might be some people listening who really do guard their privacy jealously and really value end-to-end encryption and might say, having listened to you tonight, well, they do deal with the police, they do open up email accounts, they do provide information. Do you worry that with tighter regulation in Europe, actually you might push users to those rogue states where apps aren't policed properly?
Absolutely, and I will be in Parliament defending end-to-end encryption. I think we should have it, but I think that's conditional on being responsible and engaging with law enforcement when they have actually identified bad guys. So the two go hand in hand, because you're exactly right. The risk is, if the British government ordered WhatsApp to get rid of end-to-end encryption, people who wanted privacy would just go somewhere else. So let's keep these major services end-to-end encrypted, because for most people, most of the time, the privacy is very valuable, including actually most politicians. But conditional on the platforms engaging with law enforcement responsibly when they have identified a real problem. They're not trying to censor the opposition. They're trying to stop really nasty people hurting fellow citizens.
Lord Richard, good to get your thoughts. Thank you very much.